Howdy, this is Chris Armstrong, president of APG, and I'm here to talk about what organizations can do to establish a baseline for developing enterprise business intelligence. Many organizations lack the holistic insight to effectively and efficiently respond to changes in their business and technology environments. The ability to sense and even anticipate market and tech changes and exploit those opportunities in a timely fashion is key to achieving true business agility. As organizations make investment decisions on how to respond to change, it is critical that you focus on those initiatives that deliver value to customers and key stakeholders. And as those new capabilities are uplifted and operationalized, organizations need to effectively steward their ecosystems to assure that they evolve, grow, and thrive to sustain continual value delivery. Forward-thinking organizations are establishing enterprise business intelligence capabilities to provide a reliable platform for making information-based investment decisions. Let's talk about some of the first steps you need to take to truly become agile and achieve holistic insight. Many organizations already have or are in the process of building catalogs and inventories of key assets, either in office productivity tools like Microsoft Visio and Excel or collaboration tools like Microsoft SharePoint. This often includes things like value maps, hierarchical capability models or process libraries, service catalogs, application portfolios, and technology inventories. However, most people find that managing this kind of content in such informal platforms is difficult to exploit and maintain, particularly when done by different teams that may not have organizational awareness of what other teams are doing. That's not surprising when there's no platform for integrating it into an enterprise view. This approach also makes it very difficult to effectively exploit such content for enterprise decision-making, especially when there are multidimensional relationships, such as which capabilities support which value streams, which processes implement those capabilities, and which organizations participate in those processes, which services are required by which processes, and how do they enable specific capabilities, which applications provide which services, which organizations use which applications, and which technology platforms support each application. These kinds of perspectives are critical to obtaining holistic line of sight across the enterprise so you can really understand your comprehensive integrated portfolio when making investment decisions. Now let's talk about where to start with building this new enterprise business intelligence platform. Enterprise Architect from Sparx Systems is the most popular modeling tool in the world because of its diverse feature set and attractive price point. APG ModelFlow was specifically designed to enable the creation and maintenance of such an enterprise business intelligence platform on top of this ubiquitous and affordable solution. With APG ModelFlow, organizations can readily and reliably ingest content from a plethora of data sources such as configuration management databases with application, server, and network information, other architecture modeling tools and repositories, PPM solutions with initiative and project data, IT finance systems for operational expense and project investment information, HR applications for org structure, roles, and people information, Excel, CSV, and XML files from various systems and stakeholders, or any SQL database like SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, or MySQL. APG ModelFlow is completely configurable, so virtually any type of data from any data source can be imported into Enterprise Architect for analysis, planning, and architecture activities. Let's start by looking at a simple Excel worksheet that represents an application inventory. Each row represents a different application, and each column represents additional information such as name, abbreviation, CMDB ID, description, investment disposition, and service level and criticality. Or each column represents a relationship to something else, like the person who is the business architect, the provider of the application, a mapping to the organization's capability model, in which data center it's deployed, and the technology platforms that support it. While this appears to be a simple spreadsheet, it actually contains very rich content about many different types of things, not just applications, but also capabilities, organizations, people, locations, and platforms. To aid in understanding what we're importing and what kind of information it represents, best practice suggests to create an enterprise information model, also called a meta model. Let's walk through the application-centric view of this enterprise information model based on the data that's in this spreadsheet. First, the majority of the data is about specific applications and their basic properties like name, investment disposition, criticality, service level, CMDB ID, and server count. The data types of these properties are either text, numeric, date, or specific lists of values like invest, maintain, retire, and decommissioned. The columns that reference business owner, IT owner, and business architect actually represent different relationships an application may have with an individual person. There are also relationships to the capabilities that are enabled by the application, functional areas that group those capabilities, and business domains that group functional areas. This represents a capability hierarchy. Lastly, there are relationships from application to the organization that owns it, the vendor that provides it, the technology platform that delivers it, and the location that represents in which data center the app is deployed. As you can see, not only does this spreadsheet contain considerable application information, it also contains references to information about business, operations, and technology domains. By looking at the data this way, not only can we understand which capabilities are enabled by a particular application, we will also be able to see which data centers deploy which applications, or which applications are delivered by which technology platforms. Now let's look at how APG ModelFlow is used to seamlessly load this spreadsheet into Sparx Enterprise Architect, so you can begin your journey in achieving business agility through an established enterprise business intelligence platform. Incorporating this information into your enterprise business intelligence platform couldn't be simpler with APG ModelFlow. First, you create a mapping configuration that describes how the data source is to be transformed when imported into Enterprise Architect. Here's the configuration for the base application data that describes what each row in the data source represents and how to map each column to a property, tagged value, or a relationship in Enterprise Architect. Then you execute the import process using the configuration. Let's start that for the application portfolio. As you can see in the log, APG ModelFlow is adding each application to the repository, using CMDB ID as the property for looking up existing applications, and populating basic properties. It is also looking up and creating any referenced types like capabilities, organizations, people, and technologies, and creating relationships to them. After that is finished, we're going to process the same file 2 additional times to create the capability to functional area relationships and from functional area to business domain. Those are defined by 2 additional mapping configurations. Now that the data has been loaded, let's go into Enterprise Architect and see what it looks like and what we can do with it. For the business architecture, we've loaded a 3-level capability model, locations, and organizations. Operations includes people and vendors. And the IT architecture includes applications and technologies. Let's examine the properties of a specific application, institutional banking. As you can see, the application's name, description, alias have been loaded, along with custom properties like application disposition, CMDB ID, and service level. You can see the relationships the institutional banking application has with other things, like where and how it's deployed, enabled capabilities, its owners, and vendor provider. All of this information is also visible in various views that can be displayed in the main window, including basic properties, custom properties or tagged values, notes, and relationships. Now let's look at what the entire application portfolio looks like in a tabular report. We can very easily create a simple view of the application portfolio by choosing to display it as a list. Here you can see all of the basic properties for the applications that were loaded. You can click on a column heading to sort the report by one or many columns. You can filter the report on any displayed column by simply typing several characters into the filter bar. Lastly, you can create report groups by dragging and dropping one or many column headings into the grouping bar. Also, this information can be printed out or exported to CSV for viewing in Excel. Next, let's take a look at what this information looks like when we visualize it in diagrams. Let's continue reviewing the details of the institutional banking application. First, we'll create a new diagram and place the application on it. Then we'll tell Enterprise Architect to automatically place all related elements on the diagram. And lastly, let's lay out the diagram. Not only can we visualize existing relationships that were loaded from the spreadsheet, we can also use the loaded content as the basis for creating new diagrams with new relationships, such as application interaction diagrams that describe how multiple applications collaborate to support different business functions, or application technology deployment diagrams that show which applications are hosted at which locations and the technology platforms they depend upon. Next, let's look at how we can view these relationships from a different perspective, traceability matrices. Enterprise Architect also easily enables viewing relationships between different types of elements using traceability matrices. We can look at which applications enable which capabilities, or which technology platforms deliver which applications. In fact, we can look at any relationship between any two types with this feature. In addition to viewing relationships, we can also create new relationships and delete existing ones. Let's take a look at another way you can traverse the rich relationships that have been created from loading this single application portfolio spreadsheet. So far, we've been looking at application properties and direct relationships with other things, like capabilities, organizations, people, and technology. There's another mechanism for traversing relationships in Enterprise Architect called a traceability tree. With the traceability tree displayed, you can select any element in the model or on any diagram and see all of its related elements. In the case of the institutional banking application, we can see the same elements that are shown on the diagram, its owners, architect, enabled capabilities, data center, etc. However, we can explore the relationships those related elements have by expanding them in the traceability tree. For example, if we expand the Linux technology platform, we can see all the other applications that are also delivered on Linux, or the other applications hosted in the North Data Center. You can continue to examine relationships of related elements to as many degrees of separation as you'd like. This and the other ways of looking at relationships are critical for performing impact analysis for various planning activities. Lastly, let's look at one more way of visualizing the relationships in this model. Remember that all of this was created by loading a single spreadsheet. It's not uncommon to have content that is hierarchical in nature that is used to classify and categorize other things. These would typically be called reference models in the enterprise architecture community. When loading this model, there are several columns in the spreadsheet that represent a three-level business hierarchy: business domain, functional area, and capability. And this is what it looks like after being loaded into the model. We can automatically build a nested box diagram that represents this hierarchy. No reason to have to manually draw such a diagram since the hierarchy is already represented in the repository. With APG ModelFlow's extended capabilities, you can automatically create such diagrams from existing model content. One common use of such a diagram is to use it as a capability heat map by color-coding different capabilities based on specific criteria like health, investment disposition, and spending levels. In this example, the colors simply represent the hierarchy level. In future sessions, we'll drill in deeper on how to create more advanced capability maps. I hope you have found this presentation valuable as you work to establish an enterprise business intelligence platform. Recall that all of this content was configured and loaded into Enterprise Architect in a matter of minutes using APG ModelFlow. And all of the content you've seen is available for download with the APG ModelFlow trial, which includes tutorials and sample data. In future presentations, we'll discuss how to use your Enterprise BI platform for capability-based analysis and planning, lifecycle management and road mapping, migrating from other modeling tools such as Unicom System Architect, and integration with other enterprise repositories like ServiceNow for ITSM information or Archer for GRC content. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us at info@aprocessgroup.com or visit our website to download the APG ModelFlow trial. Thanks for your interest and time.